Today, generally, how do we divide verbs? So as yesterday I defined you what is verb and we studied some kinds, but today we generally divide verbs. Before that, you know that verb is used to show action or state. It means that we have some verbs which are used to show the action, and we have some verbs which are used to show the states. We made some examples like what? Like, for example, stative verbs like love, like, hate, think, accept, agree. And we had some action verbs like we had jump, I don't know, dance, laugh, walk, yes or no? Got it? So, generally, if we say the verbs division, we can say that a verb can be divided based on three categories. Means we divide nouns based on these three categories. Firstly, based on meaning. Based on what? Based on meaning. And based on usage. Based on usage. After that, we said it based on form. Based on form. I'll come. Based on meaning, we have two types of verbs. Agree or no? I'll come. We have based on meaning, we had action, and we had what? Stative verbs, yes or no? Yes. That we studied yesterday, both of them. What is action verb and what is the stative verbs? It involves what? Physical movements, yes or no? Yes. And what is stative verbs? Involve physical movements, yes or no? Yes. So stative verbs, they don't involve physical movements, and action verbs, they involve. Now what about based on usage? How many types did we have? We have two types, yes? What are they? Main and auxiliary. So the first one was what? Main verbs and auxiliary verbs, yes or no? And I told you that how many types of main verbs do we have? We had 4, yes? So what is number 1? We studied transitive. Transitive verb, yes or no? After that, intransitive, linking verb, and finally we studied what? We studied causative verbs, yes? And auxiliary verbs, I told you that we have 3 types of auxiliary verbs. The first one is principal, modals, and semi-modals, yes? Now listen carefully and don't speak. So, we have main verbs and auxiliary verbs. Now, based on form, very important, something that I didn't tell you yesterday. Based on forms, again, we have 2 types of verbs. We have 2 types of verbs. Some verbs that we can change the form, and some verbs that we cannot change the form. Changeable. We have changeable, and we have non-changeable verbs. So what are changeable form of verbs? The verbs that we can change them into different forms. We can add is, we can add ing, we can change them to past participle. For example, we have the word go. Look, we can say went, we can say gone, we can say goes, etc. Yes or no? And we have some types of verbs that we cannot bring any changes, non-changeable. Okay, so if we talk about changeable verbs, we can have base form of the verb, base form. We have past form. Past form. We have, for example, ing form, as well as we have past participle. Past participle form. So these are the forms that they can be changed. They can be changed. And we have unchangeable or non-changeable form, like we've got finite, we have, for example, infinitive, we have gerund, as well as we call both of them, we have infinite verbs, that I will teach you what is finite, what is infinite. And finite can be part of them. Finite. It means that finite verbs can be divided into these categories. Finite verbs can be base form, past form, they can be ing, they can be past participle too. And infinite can be gerund, and it can be infinitive, means we cannot bring any changes for them. So this will be types of verbs. A verb can be action or a state. We have three important types. The first one is verbs based on meaning, verbs based on usage, and verbs based on form. Based on meaning, we have action or state verbs. And based on usage, we have main verb and auxiliary verbs. That a main verb is divided into 4 important categories, like we've got transitive, intransitive, linking verb, causative verbs. And auxiliary verbs, we have principal, modals, and semi-modal, that we will study them one by one. And based on form, we have changeable words or verbs, and non-changeable. Changeable can be finite, and they can be base form, past form, ing form, and past participle. As well as it can be infinite. Infinite can be gerund or infinitive, means we cannot bring changes. We will study them one by one. So among these types of verbs, I only taught you remember that I told you what? Action verbs, stative verbs, as well as I told you something about what? Main verbs and auxiliary verbs. But we didn't study transitive, intransitive, linking, and causative, and all the types of verbs that we have to study them in the next session. Next session, I will be teaching you what is transitive verb, what is intransitive verb, and we will study what are linking verbs. So it's about today's lesson. Today I told you the general mapping of a verb, means if you want to teach somewhere verbs, please know a lot about them. If you want to study them completely, if you want to present them as a project somewhere else, if you want to have a presentation on verb, please don't forget these types of verbs, because it completely makes your knowledge enough and complete, and you can have at least a lot of information on verb. If you have such kind of information, people will understand that you know a lot about verb. Okay? It was about this lesson. Please take a note, and then I'll be teaching others. I have a small meeting.